Hi, this is Rob with Aquatic Facility Training and Rob Call Water Swimming Pool Services. This video is a liner change that I did on my own personal swimming pool, and like all liner changes, we start by draining. Once we managed to get the water down out of the shallow end, the first thing that we did was we cut out all of the liner in the shallow end, including the walls, and that revealed some scabby walls. So we knew that we were going to have to initiate repairs. In our case, we're going to scrape them down and repaint them with Tremclad. Originally, the plan was to use some geotextile. However, that didn't work out, and we decided not to go that route. Well, good morning everybody. It's Rob with Robco Water and Aquatic Facility Training Ottawa. Today I'm going to be sharing some video and pictures and stuff like that of the pool renovation I'm doing in my backyard. So basically, as it stands right now, I've already pulled, and now is when I'm going to be starting to share a little bit more information. So you can see that the walls are a little bit rough. Those are going to be scraped down, and then I'm going to be painting them with Tremclad. And to be sure that everything is protected, I'm going to wrap it with geotextile fabric, just to make sure there's no rough spots against the new liner. I'm also, for the first time, going to be trying to record this in fast motion. So I'm going to be doing it at 20:1. So every 20 minutes of work is going to be 1 minute on video. And hopefully that'll be kind of cool. You know, I'm waiting to see how that turns out. And of course, it's going to be posted on my YouTube channel under Aquatic Facility Training Ottawa. So if you're already not a subscriber, I ask that you go ahead and do that. Now, yeah, these walls are pretty ugly. This is all from probably about 20-25 years ago. So as you can see, return was leaking. Over here, the skimmer was leaking. In the last renovation, we redid the entire deck around the pool. And we also changed all the plumbing, including the return jets and the skimmer, which is why this has not gotten worse over the last 15 years this liner was in. Now, some of the other stuff I'm going to be doing, there's a great big punch out here in the wall. So I'm going to be addressing that, filling that in. Again, you know, going to have to make sure that everything is all nice and smooth. And the other thing is, back in the day, this used to have a drain in the pool. Now what I'm going to do, because we have such high water table and it's hard to see, but from where my foot is now to where my foot is here, there's about a 4-inch rise where the water table has pushed that up out of the ground. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing double drains. They're not going to be connected to any of the plumbing, but I'm going to be able to put a hydrostatic valve in there to make sure that there's going to be no water pressure underneath my shell. So basically, that's what's going on for today. As you can see, it's already a scorcher. I'm down to my belly button in sweat. So hopefully we can get this pool back up and running so that everybody can cool off. In any case, check in. We'll see what's going on. So when we film in fast forward, it doesn't provide any sound. The last picture that you saw that still was just showing how much groundwater came in over about a 5-minute period. The water table here, and it's August right now, the middle of August, the water table is extremely high. And because of that, I have to really be careful that I don't damage the pool. So with that old single drain, I pulled the square plug out while I'm doing the work so that any water pressure underneath would be relieved. But then I just have to keep continuously pumping it out with that little puddle pump. So the walls are all scraped down, looking pretty good. Again, I'm a fanatic when it comes to washing down. I like making sure that everything is prepared properly. I repaired the tape that was hanging down there, came loose. Taping the seams and the edges, what it does is it allows me to have a better seal when it comes time to put my liner vac on, so that dirt and debris doesn't get sucked in from that exposed crack. So again, here I am in the shallow end. I've washed down the walls. You can see the amount of crud that's being washed down the slope. Trying to keep that shallow end nice and clean, washing out the track so that when I go to clip my liner. There's not going to be any interference from dirt and stuff. And I'm systematically working my way down into the deep end. And that's pretty much all I was going to do for this day. I like to do my liners on a 2-day basis. So basically the first day I strip, and if there's any surprises that I find underneath that you can't see through the liner, it gives me the opportunity to fix them up. Unfortunately, I was running solo on the camera, so I wasn't able to switch the angles on a regular basis. You're just going to have to endure that, and I apologize. Again, just repairing the tape that was loose and come off. And now, unfortunately, the second video that I made was the installation of the dual bottom drains. You just saw me carry them down. Unfortunately, that video, the camera was set up wrong and I wasn't able to capture that process, but it saves you guys another 5 minutes or so of time. As you can see, I did an expose of the rough area, that little punch out. So basically what I did was I cracked away any of the loose stuff. I got away all the little pebbles and rocks and stuff that were going to get in my way so that I could do a proper repair. So as I stated in the opening video, you can see I'm using TrimClad to paint the walls, make sure that they are as protected as I could possibly do it. The extremely heavy rusted areas, I end up putting a second coat on just to make sure that we do have good penetration, good adhesion of the TrimClad paint behind the liner. The reason I'm using white, I mean, I could have gone silver, which probably would have looked better on video. However, the reason I did it with white is because I've got other projects around here that I need to use white TrimClad for. So I figured, well, since this is never going to be seen again, TrimClad is TrimClad is TrimClad, and that's what I used. Now I just want to also say this is my own personal pool, so anybody you see walking around in the background has been told that there is videotape rolling and they are fine with that. So you don't need to worry about their privacy. They've already been warned. Now, for all you people who know me, you know that I'm a short little guy. I only stand 5'7", so being in the bottom of an 8-foot pool, it really is not a good thing for me. I had to move around, do some of it from the top, some of it from the bottom. The corners were an absolute beast because, again, I'm using a full-sized roller. And in my 90-degree corners, I have transitions that are 6 inches wide. So that made it a little bit trickier because I had to do those things from the side of that, from the sideways position as opposed to up and down. So as you can see, I just rolled out the second coat on some of those rougher spots, and it's time to do a little bit of cleanup. I always try and make sure that my job site is clean. As you can see, there's a dog running around. There's actually 2 of them in there. I don't know where the other one is, but there's 2 dogs running around the backyard. The last thing I want to do is have them step in any construction materials. So keeping a clean workspace is always a priority when it comes to my jobs. As you can see, the walls are looking nice. Almost looks like brand new. They're nice and smooth because of the scrape down. Next thing I'm going to address is this punch out. And after doing the repairs with regular concrete or sand concrete mix, I'm going to cover over it with hydraulic. I'm going to fill up the extra little cracks and heaves and stuff just to make sure that I've got a smooth base for my liner. Now you can see here I've got the double drains all set up beside me. Even though they're not going to be hooked up to any plumbing by me, I made sure that they did conform to the Virginia Graham Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act, which means that they are at least 3 foot center to center.
I went a little bit over that. I went closer to 4 feet center to center because, again, it's such a big pool. I had the room in the bottom. There's no sense going with smaller. And they actually ended up looking pretty good when I was done. So you can see I'm doing the repairs of the concrete floor. Again, cracks don't really make too big a difference as long as they're nice and flush. So anything that has an edge or a ridge, I either have to break down or go over, make it smooth so that the liner goes over it properly. I don't also want to clean up all of the cracks that are in the pool because I need to have some area for that water to transfer back and forth, and those cracks are naturally where it's decided in the past to go. So soon I'm going to be pulling out that bottom drain, and when that bottom drain comes out, then I will line up my new bottom drains for their new home. So I've almost got these huge cracks repaired. This is by far the worst part of the entire job was trying to fix up the concrete. I'm not much of a concrete guy, however, I can hold my own, especially if it's going to be covered up with 30 mil vinyl. So as you can see right now, I've measured out. I'm making my end mark so I can pull my new bottom drains out of the way and actually create a hole. Fortunately for me, when they built this pool, and that was probably about 50 years ago, when they built this pool, the entire underneath section at the back is all clear stone. So happily for me, I was able to recycle some of the stone that was there instead of having to use new. The only thing that really threw me off was they actually set that old bottom drain in concrete. So there's a concrete ring around there. So the rest of the parging, easy to come out. Uh, Fortunately, I have a little bit of a hammer drill, an electric hammer drill sort of thing, and it just popped it out like no one's business. One of the other important things is making sure that you keep your water under control. If you can control your water, then you're going to control your dig. So the first thing that I did for the bottom drains is I made sure that I got a pump in lower than my surface so that I was able to actually control that water. So I'm sure you saw me pop over to my wall repairs as it was starting to dry up. It's extremely hot that day. As it was starting to dry up, I wanted to give it another trowel, try and get it nice and smooth, get some of that cream to the surface. And now you can see that I'm fitting the bottom drains. So I'm digging down deeper, obviously, so that the pots will fit in there. And what I'm going to do is essentially set it a little bit below level so that the drains will be the lowest part of our bottom of our pool. Again, making sure that the site is clean is a big priority. It makes things, in my opinion, go a little bit easier. So I put a little bit of the clear stone in there, and now it's time to do some concrete work. So now that everything is down, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the entire set in concrete. So I'm just using a concrete sand mix. At this point, I'm mixing everything, a concrete stone mix. And I'm going to set everything in concrete. And then once that's set, I'm going to do the surface part with either a parging or a sand mix. I prefer parging because it's a finer mix, and it'll give me a nice strong finish. So just to explain what my helper is doing, the shop vac that we're using there has a sump feature, which means that when it gets full of water, it'll automatically pump it out through a garden hose out the back. Unfortunately, there was a crack in that fitting. I never used it until this day. I've had the vacuum for 4 years. When we went to use it, it was actually spitting water out the back, which was running back down into my hole.
Good morning, everybody. It's Rob with Rob Cold Water and Aquatic Facility Training, Ottawa. And if you've been following this project, you know that today is liner day. So I'm going to be recording the prep on this, and we're going to see what goes on. Obviously, I'm going to have to do a wash down, and I did one the other day, but I'm going to have to do one again. The walls have all been fixed up and painted. Yes, I use Trimclad because it is steel. Now, some of the things that I'm going to have to do, this is the patchwork that I did yesterday. It's going to need to be scraped down, and it's going to have to be smoothed out a little bit. I'm going to use hydraulic cement for that. This is the other patch. Again, it's never going to look like new, but I'm going to clean that up with hydraulic. This is how my drains ended up. Now, because of the high water pressure underneath, I had a couple of little blowouts in my concrete, but that's okay. This stuff is set, so I am good to go. I can go ahead and turn my pump off, but as you can see, even with the pump running, I have all sorts of water available, and that's where this stuff here is coming from. A little crack over underneath over here. So we've been draining all night long, and this is where we are. So some of these cracks, I'm going to leave alone, right, because they're going to help relieve pressure. However, some of them, like this one over here, is completely uneven, so I'm going to have to use a grinder in order to flatten that out a little bit. Of course, in traditional Andrea Nanini, I believe that's how it's pronounced, tradition, I'm going to try and rescue all the wildlife before I start cleaning. But everything is going to get washed down into the deep end, and then I'm going to use the vacuum to clean it all up. And then we drop the liner. So hopefully in a couple of hours, we're going to be dropping liner, and water is booked for noon. So the clock is ticking. It's 7:15 now, and let's see what goes on.
So this is my typical day 2 when I change a liner. I do the last little bit of prep work, and I do a wash down, and once that wash down is done, we're ready to drop a liner in. So that's what you're seeing now, just making sure everything is the way I want it. Again, because of the extremely high water table, you can see my garden hose. I'm going to leave the pump running until the point where I can't leave it in anymore. So it's going to stay in there until I'm actually dropping the liner. Once I get to the deep end, I have no choice but to pull out the pump. Now, when I did that, I ended up with probably 2 or 3 inches of water in 5 minutes. It's crazy the amount of water that's in the ground, especially at this time of year. We've had rain once in the last 3 weeks, and it's extremely dry. It's nuts. So as you can see there, I'm starting to do my final wash down. Start off by getting obstacles out of the way. Make sure that my boots are nice and clean, because the last thing you want to do is get stuff trailing you in behind you. Start off in the shallow end, establish a nice clean area, and then work from there. Now, the reason I left my hose on the slope is because I plan on washing it off before bringing it in the shallow end. That way I've got, again, clean hose before I bring it up into the shallow end. Now, washing the shallow end, I noticed there were a couple of areas where I had some holes, so I decided to patch those up real quick. Again, that's hydraulic cement. It works really, really great, does a good job, it's nice and quick, sets quick, and it's a nice permanent fix. Now, unfortunately, what you're not going to see due to the camera angle, and I apologize for that, is me vacuuming out all of the dirt and crud and crap that I have washed down to the deep end. I do this with each and every pool, just to make sure that there's nothing down there underneath the liner that's going to be sharp. It also makes for a better presentation when the liner is in, because you don't see any bumps or humps or anything like that. So I am vacuuming all of that sand and all the old stones and clay and blah, 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 you name it, that ended up down there, all vacuumed up. And then once that is completed, I am good to go. So you'll see in a minute here, I'm going to get out of the pool, and I'm going to go and actually bring the liner to the pool's edge. Yes, you did actually see me whip the hose for the vacuum out of the pool. I also then used the small puddle pump to suck all the water out of the vacuum, so that it was lighter for me to bring up. Because remember, I'm an old guy, so it's all about working smart and not hard. Okay, so I know a lot of people are going to be interested. This is a liner manufactured in Canada by a company named Liner Works. It's all part of the Pool Works group, and this liner pattern was selected not by me. I'm just the guy who gets to do the work. So in this particular case, in this rectangular pool, the idea is that um, I'm going to make sure that my shallow end corners are in place, because again, I've got that 6 inch 45 on the corners instead of a 90-degree corner. So it's important to have those in place so that they look really nice when you're done. As you can see, starting the shallow end, I'm clipping. Now I'm going to switch over to the other side, and I'm going to bring up the other side to match the first side. Now, when it comes to installing these things, there's no such thing as taking too much time to make sure that everything is in the right place and you're not going to have wrinkles. It's easier to get rid of those wrinkles now than it is after the water is in. As you can see, when I reached to where the hose was for the puddle pump, I went ahead and pulled it out and got it completely out of the way. Now I'm just basically going to race to the corners in the deep end and try and get them all lined up. Fortunately for me, when this pool was measured, even though it's a rectangle, I used AB. So what I did was I put all the points, even on the 45-degree corners. So there's basically 8 spots on this pool that I measured for my ABs. And I also gave them step locations. Unfortunately, they put the seam in the middle of the shallow end instead of where the step was. I have no idea why they did that. I'm already getting comments about how ugly that seam is. But, that's just the way life works sometimes. It's a beautiful liner. It fit like an absolute glove, and I'm completely happy with it. So now that I've got the liner completely clipped all the way around the swimming pool, what I'm going to do next is I am going to usually clip my stair and then install my liner vacs. So there's the liner vac there. Put the pipe down the side, hook it up to the liner vac. And this is such a good fit, I didn't even bother using any tape to seal it at the two sides. However, because it is a huge pool, it's an 18 by 36 with an 8-foot deep end. And because I know that I'm going to have water underneath the liner already, I set up my shop vac to act as a second liner vac on the other side. So again, you just saw me pull the deep end a little bit so that I'm sure that everything is going to line up there. Making sure that my shallow end is nice and lined up, because let's face it, that's where people are going to be spending the majority of their time. I want to make sure that there are no wrinkles or anything in there. I use a robotic vacuum, so I don't want to give that robot anything as an excuse to damage the liner in any way, shape, or form. Now here we are, I'm clipping the stair. Now you'll see that I've got 1 foot in place at the bottom of the wall, holding the liner against the wall. The idea is to stretch down the liner a little bit into the curve, right? Because the wall seams are supposed to be right where the wall meets the floor. So by manually pulling it down like that, when the water goes in and that weight is on it, my liner is not going to shift and create wrinkles after the fact. So what I do is I get my foot in place, and then I use my other foot and kick my foot into the wall. And that way everything is going to be nice and snug. As you can see, the liner vacs are doing their job. All the wrinkles have disappeared. Everything is looking really, really good. I've got my two sides clipped. Now it's time to clip the bottom. Once the bottom gets clipped, everything is going to move forward a lot quicker. So right here we have a couple of spots where there were some box wrinkles. Since my vacuums were doing a fantastic job, there's no sense leaving those box wrinkles there. Move them over to where they are pointing. So when you have them pointing in one direction, that's the way they want to move. So I was able to move it towards the shallow end wall because there was a little bit of play there still. And as you can see, I cut out the stair. Make sure you cut it out on the inside of the stair, not the outside. Seen that done. All right, so here we are. After all those repairs, this is the liner installed. As you can see, the bottom drains are in there, looking super sexy. I decided to go with gray. Stair is all clipped in, not a wrinkle in sight. Another beautiful fit on this LinerWorks liner. Thank you very much to them for supplying me. We started using them this year, and I gotta say, the way these things fit, I don't consider it to be a bad choice. So there we go. Another one done before one. So that's it. Now we have a working pool, 3 loads of water, so 20,000 gallons for this particular pool. And it's over and done with. I had a truck come in, do the water balancing on it, and the pool is up and running and everybody is happy. I hope that you found this video useful and helpful. Talk to you soon.